Welcome back to the Red Room Radio Show. It's your boy Dion here. Got that dude Miguel here.
Hello, hello.
Got the lovely Keon here.
Greetings.
And we're playing a little Whitney Houston in remembrance of her lovely daughter who just passed, Bobby Kristina.
Yes, yes.
Keon, please, I know you got a few things you want to say.
Well, she did pass at the tender age of 22 after being in a medically induced coma for the last 6 months. It's kind of eerie that she was found almost in the same manner as her mother, unconscious in a bathtub, submerged in water, and almost, around the same time of her mother's passing. I think just maybe a month or two shy of the 3-year mark. So this has definitely been a tragedy compounded onto another tragedy, and I'm sure the loss of her life is very impactful to not only her family, her loved ones, her mother's fans, her fans, and just the community at large, because I think it touches on so many different aspects of culture, fame, personal demons, inter-family dysfunction, dynamics. Death brings out crazy experiences. And I know I'm speaking from my own personal perspective, but I'm sure many people out there, and even the people in this room, can vouch for having similar experiences. Miguel, what say you?
Well, I think her brother said it best. This is not a trending topic. This is my life. My effing life is what he said. And that goes to show how real it is.
Oh, yeah.
After experiencing a close death not too long ago, I'm just grateful that we, in my opinion, handle it a lot different than many times it ends up. A lot different than how it ends up many times. I wish them well. I pray that they find comfort soon. And just keep in mind that life was lost. Dion.
Gotta throw that long breath out there. You know what? I think is really, I don't know if y'all knew this, but I just found this out a couple days ago, that when they found Whitney dead, that same night, Bobby Kristina actually fell asleep in the bathtub and flooded her apartment. Or I don't know if it was the whole apartment, but it was like the bathroom and like another room.
Right.
Isn't that something?
That is interesting.
No, I never heard that.
Yeah.
So.
Don't know how true it is, but
Yeah.
that's what I heard.
Well, now it wakes up the sleeping devil.
Yeah, CNN go. I don't know, that's where I heard it from.
Yeah, but now you have to wonder if this episode was intentional.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we do know that she did struggle with depression. Here we are on that, touching on that vein again. So, again, you never know where someone's level is. And obviously she was still in grief, still in mourning. Or, maybe, who knows? All, people things throw out there is speculation. Maybe it was ways to relax. Everybody takes a bath every now and then to unwind or de-stress or what have you.
Yeah.
Maybe it went awry. Maybe the fella did, bother her or fight her or whatever. Have some fallout.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring up, I think his name was Nick Gordon.
Yes.
Because I feel like right now the people are trying to make him the villain. I feel like that's always the case when there's an unfortunate, tragedy when somebody passes.
Right.
There has to be a villain.
Right.
Well, they made Bobby the villain too for many years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's mainly because the money's on the female side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whenever there are family members that says that guy's not the right guy for you, then we end up in these scenarios where, like you said, they're trying to make or villainize the individual that could have easily loved her to death. We don't really even know. And the only thing I find strange about Keon's point about we all take baths at times is I've never known anybody to take a bath with two other individuals in the house, if that makes sense. You feel me?
Well, no, because I mean, you think you'd take a bath with your wife in the house,
Right.
but there was that guy. I can't think of his name. He lived there.
The third guy, he lived in the house as well?
There was two dudes. There was
Right.
the husband
The boyfriend.
and the boyfriend
Uh-huh.
and his friend.
Okay.
But that guy lived in the
third
house.
guy, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was visiting. That's
No,
why.
no, no.
That's why I thought it would be
Him
strange.
and his lady actually lived in the house with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I did read online that the house in question is not really hers, but that Whitney purchased it, of course, and it's in Whitney's name, so it's not actually Bobby's, Kristina's, and the place that she actually lived as an apartment. They were evicted from her and Nick because of noise complaints by the neighbors.
Wow.
So the place she died was a rented space?
Not rented.
Uh-huh.
That was
Whitney
Whitney's.
owned
That was
it,
the
but
house.
it wasn't Bobby Kristina's.
Right.
It was Whitney's.
Well, I think a lot of parents set it up that way just so they don't squander, what they left for the kids.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting that, say what you want about Whitney Houston. She was very clear when it came to will planning and estate planning.
Yeah.
It's very important for people out there to know that. It's very important you get your paperwork in order. So her will stipulates if Bobby Kristina were to die before
30.
the installments were to kick in, the money goes back to Whitney's estate. So I think the first installment was 10% at her age of 21. So literally, she just got, a few million from the first. Now everything, instead of going into escrow and fighting and between Bobby and the aunt and this, it automatically goes right back into Whitney's estate to be dispersed between her mother and her two brothers.
Well, I'm going to say really quick, not to cut you off,
No,
but I
you're
heard
fine.
that if Bobby Kristina didn't make it to 30, then the money would go to her mother, her brothers, and possibly Bobby Brown.
No, Bobby gets nothing. He's not written in the will at all. The money goes back to the mother, her mother, and her two brothers, who are the estate. Her mother is the estate inheritor.
Now, really quick, let me just throw this out there. Now, let's say her and Nick really did get married.
Then they would have a fight on their hands
I'm thinking,
of just the $2 million.
Is it possible that that's why the family have been trying to bash him? Especially as soon as she, she was found in the tub and what have you.
right.
But as soon as that happened, they made him the
Automatic.
villain.
Yeah.
And then he ran out and got the lawyer,
Right.
which you got to do with that
Yeah.
at that level.
At
in
that
the
level,
game.
yeah.
Do you know who his lawyer is?
Oh yeah.
Casey Anthony's
Yeah,
lawyer.
whatever. That's that guy. Yeah,
Mr.
because
Baez.
and I was thinking about this too, and I could be 100% wrong. They've been living together since I think she was 12.
Right.
As brother and sister.
They've been living together. He was not adopted, so they've been living together in that house. So technically, wouldn't that be a common law marriage?
Georgia doesn't recognize common law.
Oh, and that's something.
Don't ask me how I know.
Isn't that something? Okay, even with that being said, so let's say there is no marriage certificate, but she did make the statement online that she was married to Nick. Does he have some type of fight?
He would only be entitled to, if that was the case, he would only be entitled to what she was given prior to, the 21.
Whatever. Right.
The installment she received up to 22. He would not be entitled to the other, two payments.
Because it was so specific in the will?
Yes.
Interesting.
Well, again, at that level, I don't think anybody plays with it. I mean, you may have a nut job out there that doesn't go the length of making sure that every step of the way, the family's
It's
protected.
covered.
It would be dumb to give a 20-year-old, $20 million, which was the more interesting thing to me is that's all her estate was worth. I found that to be
What, 20 million?
20 mil, yeah. And according to the reports I read, she got 5 as the first installment. But in today's world, that really is no money when you live in that level. You feel me?
Yeah.
One car, one house, That's 50% of it right there. And then
Yeah.
you're shopping every day, you're traveling. I don't really think it. And maybe that's why there was reported struggles between the family and Bobby. Maybe they just didn't like the way her and Nick were living life, if you will. And I also believe that the family just probably had an issue with him because I don't even know the scenario where they brought him, how they brought him in, but you would think that person would kind of grow on the family, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there should be some love there for him, but it was like you said, it's just been like hate from day one. It's like everything that's written about him from the family's perspective. It's like,
Well,
but this is the
that's
money.
the same thing with
Because-
Bobby.
I'm sorry,
Right,
but hold
right,
on, because Whitney loved him.
mm,
Whitney brought him into her house.
Gotcha.
So when Whitney was, as far as I know, when Whitney died, that's when you started hearing about, this Nick character and he's
Right.
this and he's that.
Right.
So is it the money? Is it the family
No,
trying to make him the villain so he can't get his hands on that money?
I don't know. Number one, he would never have been entitled to it. Like you were saying, when she set it up in a manner where it came through in stages. So again, that first 5, if you with your chick, she gonna treat you like y'all living.
But it doesn't
living
make
that
a
life.
difference. Doesn't it make a difference if you're married?
No, because it's an inheritance. So it goes to the spouse, and then from the, not the spouse, I'm sorry, it goes to whoever you will it to, the child. So in the event, according to what I read, in the event that person dies, then it is then given to the next. So it would be grandma. They had a whole list of how it goes. So it trickles to the grandmother first, and then brothers,
Gotcha.
then uncles, and down the line if they fell in that line of succession.
Okay, so you said she got the first $5 million.
According to what I read.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
So you're saying he wouldn't be entitled to any of that if they're married?
If they're married,
He would be entitled. He could be entitled to that 5 only.
Yeah, just that first 5.
Because that's actually
whatever
hers.
collective,
Right, what
whatever
was
they
collective.
did as
Together.
a couple, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So houses and such,
right,
if they got it
right,
together
if
at
they
that
got
time.
it together, yeah. But Keon's right. The house was never put in her name. The house is owned by the estate. So in the event that she dies, then it's still claimed by the estate. It was never deeded to the daughter, so
Right.
he has no claim to it.
Gotcha. But he may have claim to that initial 5.
Whatever the amount is.
Yeah. But I think I find it interesting that his, and it wasn't the family, so that is what make you pause.
What do you mean it wasn't the family?
The lawsuit held brought by the what do you call the independent party when you have like wills and stuff?
The independent party.
There's right. You have Pat Houston, right, who's an executive of the estate, and the other person. There was an independent. I forget the name. A guardian, if you will, that the court appoints. That has nothing to do with either family.
Why would the court appoint somebody if she's of age?
Because she was lying in a coma. If you go read, there's a lady, that's who brought the civil suit against Nick Gordon, charging that he took her bank card and withdrew money as stealing, with nobody's permission.
You talking about after she fell into a coma, the court appointed somebody to oversee.
So they filed a suit against Nick, alleging that he stole money from her account. Of course, he probably had access to the card.
Right, well,
Of course he did.
But
his lady.
if your name
That was
is
his
not on
wife.
the account, you're not, and you know the rules, Miguel.
Right.
Once somebody goes into a state of unconsciousness, it's now the power of attorney who is supposed to be able to go in there and futz money around and move it and pay and do whatever.
But I find it interesting that they how then does it come before a judge to appoint a guardian?
Because I think, remember, you have Pat, who is over the estate.
Right.
And then you
So
have
nobody for
Brown,
Bobby, really.
who is the father. So
Right.
they had to come to court
Right.
so that they could say, okay, you'll be over her health stuff,
Right.
Dad.
Right.
And you'll be over the financial stuff, Pat, because you still are the executor of the estate.
Yeah, but it just seems weird that the court automatically gets involved. Does that make sense?
Well, they had to
don't-
bring it to the court.
Who is they?
Probably the family.
Because
If you have two people that are over, Bobby Brown is her father.
correct.
Yes,
He should be in control of all
no,
medical
he shouldn't,
decisions.
because the money being used to pay for the medical expenses is coming out of the estate, which is probably why they had Pat there. You know, there's somebody that makes the financial decisions, and that's how the court thingamajiggy was dictated. Pat is over the financial things regarding the estate. So if the estate had to pay for Bobby Kristina's care, that she signs off on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Bobby Brown, her father, he does not have the money to pay for that kind of care.
Okay.
Because they don't have regular insurance like you and me. Most celebrities pay for their own, right? There's no health care because they're with RCA records. Anyway, he was granted her health decisions.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right. So you're saying he still has to go to Pat to get X
money?
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but so what did the judge do in that scenario? They took money from the estate and put it in an escrow account for her medical care?
No, if apparently Pat and Bobby agreed to such terms, so it didn't have to get to that level.
Okay. But you said that they appointed a guardianship.
They point over, I guess, an independent guardianship, I guess, over because the person has no relation to Pat or Bobby. So let's say
to me it sounds weird because it seems like big government's getting in your business.
Maybe let me use it this way: if Dion and Miguel are known to have problems, and this is history proven that Bobby Brown and the family had issues, but Dion is the parent and you own the money.
Right.
I'm going to let you two. You have that, and just to make sure everything is copacetic, I'm going to have an independent person there so that no one can say they're swaying this way or that way. Maybe that's why the judge did it.
You're jumping to that position where there's somebody in the middle. I'm trying to find out how do we get there. What is if you're telling me that Bobby and the family agreed on paying for the medical care, so there was no need for that person. That's why I'm trying to understand what their position is.
I have no idea. I'm just telling you from what it read. You know, maybe because she was a minor, or maybe she wasn't 25. She was 21. I have no idea, but they had independent legal. I don't know what you want to call the person who filed the claim against Mr. Gordon, alleging he broke her teeth, he scarred her, he stole her money, and this is why he got the high-powered attorney Dion to counter such charge.
No, because he started to make my boy the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he had to protect himself.
I
think he was trying. Wasn't he trying to a recording career?
Who, him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
Okay. Very interesting, but that's family. That's family. That's
how they do.
That's how they do. That's why again I'm thanking the Lord that we've actually come closer as a family since my grandmother's passing.
What say you, Dion? All these different things floating around? I wasn't in the mic when I said that. What say you, Dion? All these different things floating around?
No, I'm still stuck on the whole Nick Gordon thing.
Well, what do you feel?
What I feel about what?
About him.
I feel like that he's her ex-husband, whether it was legal or not. That's his wife.
So you feel the family was wrong in keeping him away from her bedside?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. That's not right. That's not right. She's dying. These are her last days. You don't do that. Yeah. If you have a problem with him, wait till she passes. Deal with it outside.
Right.
Don't stop him from seeing the woman he's been with for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can. That's not right.
Sorry to interrupt you. She was the conservator. That's what the lady's title was.
You're a genius.
Sweet.
So back to you, Dion.
Yeah.
If it was found that he was physically abusive to her, you say it's still okay to let him visit?
Yeah, that was his wife. And if she didn't want to be with him, she had ample opportunity to leave him.
Gone.
You can't wait till she's in a coma to say no. You can't see her on her last days here.
There were
That's not
people
right.
that said there were text messages that they say they have of her saying she wanted to leave him, that he had become abusive, and that, she was, worried about her safety.
They also was questioning the bruises on her chest when they found her in the tub. That was from CPR. That was the chest compressions. So there's always gonna be something out there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
She obviously didn't want to leave him that bad if he had keys to the house.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And I think it's so sad that after the fact, everybody got their opinion about him. Oh, you this, you that, you this. When ultimately, Whitney brought him into the household.
Right.
It was Whitney that said, "I want you to live here with me and my child."
Well, actually, me and wifey go through this back and forth at times because the feeling is you should respect my wishes in death, and I don't know that mine are negated just because you had an opinion before you passed.
Break that down for me.
All right, so before I die, I say I would hope that these are the things that you continue if I weren't here. And after you pass, I, as the sole parent, then make a decision. I don't know if that's the best decision at this time.
But can you give me an example?
Whether or not they have to move out of the house or who they get to live with or summer with, if you will.
Yeah.
Like there's a tradition in my world where you send your kids home or wherever you come from for the summer. So that kind of thing. So those type things I know she's not comfortable with.
Yeah.
But if I, as the sole parent, after her passing, if I feel for whatever reason it might be good for them, is that really disrespecting your wishes? If I choose to do what's best for the kid, if I'm the sole guardian at that point?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
We go through that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting topic, but I really don't think so.
Yeah.
Because you got to respect with your current thought on what's best for the children. Those are your children.
Sure.
You don't know.
That's my argument.
Yeah. And things could have changed in the time where she passed, and the reason why she wanted the kids to do certain things. Things could have changed.
Yeah, they could have become more mature.
Yeah.
They could handle scenarios. So that was my thing. It's like, I always argue, start off with the benefit of the doubt. If a spouse says to you, "I wish this," right? Unless it's like detrimental, it's like, you have to think that their mindset is not to hurt their child. So if Whitney's choice was to bring him into the house, who are you as auntie, grandma to say he's a bad character? Not that he's a good character.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
But no, exactly.
So I find it touchy.
I think maybe they didn't trust Whitney's judgment either.
Sure.
Because her track record for herself. And I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm saying this is maybe her family's opinion.
Right.
Her track record for herself wasn't that great.
Well,
I mean, if you seriously listen to Sissy, they still hold Bobby quite responsible for many different things that we now know. Whitney was already doing. Right, we know, but the fact that Sissy is still very adamant about
because that's her
it
baby.
being my point.
Exactly.
So maybe they view Bobby Kristina in the same way, especially more so once they lost Whitney, because now this is all they have of Whitney,
and that's the memory that they have.
So they are going to fiercely protect
you took her to her death,
and it's just unfortunate that history repeated itself. How do we call it? Current history repeated itself in, a really, really tragic way.
I think it's funny when you have outside family that comes in and thinks they know what's best for you. It's never funny when you're in that situation because obviously something happened to put you there.
Sure.
But I hate when the outside family comes in. And now you're going by their rules, and you wasn't there for me last night when I was crying. You wasn't there for me 2 years ago when I was in my mom's bed scared to death. But now that you're the only family I have left, now you know what's best for me and my future, what's going on with me and my wife or my husband, or whatever the case may be. And like you said, that's their that's all they have left.
Right.
But I think it's funny. It's not necessarily right. Not saying it's wrong, but it's definitely not right.
I think there are other aspects of her life that they probably should have vested more vengeance toward. The boy was just one, you know. Her depression was a bigger, her grief, understandable. By all means, I understand it completely. I have lost a parent at a young age. Her internal demons, maybe the vengeance should have been put there. And maybe the fella was her one solace, that one happy.
Yeah.
Because obviously she was already estranged from her father. That ain't easy, and you have no mother. And she was estranged from her grandmother. So that's probably why she called Nick her husband. And they, she felt closest to him because the central figures that you have in your life. And I'm not knocking aunts and uncles because they're great people.
Oh, yeah, for
sure. But the central figures, your mother gone, your daddy gone, your grandma gone, you feel alone.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, I'm 30 plus. I had a man, I had a mama. And yet when my father passed, I felt completely alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you can just imagine. I just wish the family would have had more vengeance for her mental state and her demons, her her internal demons.
And ultimately, when you get married, that's your spouse. That's who you are planning to spend the rest of your life with. At that point, it becomes you and that your significant other, not what the next person or your mother or your father or what have you. That's your family now. You're not trying to say anything about you shouldn't grieve or you shouldn't listen to your parents. Still, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm just saying when you make that commitment, that is your new life. That is your new family.
Right.
You start a family. You have children. You know what I mean? So,
sorry, but this is where my dearest grandmother would come in and say, "The Bible tell you so," right?
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what it said. That's what I wanted to say. But please.
That's exactly what she would say right about now. She'd tell you once you start your life, you forsake all others.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes.
That's how it goes.
Yes.
But you're right. Again, once money's involved, who knows whose motives, taking them in which direction. So
and that's sad. The other sad thing. There were reports that somebody was shopping a picture of her lying on her deathbed. Bobby Kristina.
That's crazy.
That's actually, in my opinion, that's expected. That's the culture we live.
I don't expect that from family members.
At that level.
Stay there.
At that level in the game. Because people are wicked. Let's say Sissy, that's the grandmother, right?
Yeah.
Sissy can be genuine from toe to top. But maybe one of her other daughters or her other sons are not genuine. They just want the bread. You know what I mean? Yep. Not everybody is going to be the angel.
Think about it. That could probably bring you close to 500,000. One shot.
That's
disgusting.
Easy.
It could be disgusting all day long, but again, that's the society we live.
And that was the cash cow. Bobby Kristina was the money.
Right. Well, in fairness to Sissy, I Googled her and she got, I think it estimated her wealth at about $5 million.
Well, that's what's up.
That's survivable, right?
But what about her sons and her daughters down the line?
Yeah.
Christina's the cash cow.
I feel you.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's
Sissy
money bags.
Is fine.
Who?
Sissy is fine.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That she would be the next in line. So her motive for ending the life, if you will, one could argue would be like I've witnessed probably 4 deaths in the past 2 years.
Me too.
And every one of them, the plug was pulled. Leave my plug in. Do not pull the plug. I just don't believe in it. Okay. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Pull the plug on me, please.
Nah, man. It just seems like that decision is being made way too quick these days. Maybe not in her case, but I think families are just making that decision way too quick.
I do like how they waited for Bobby Kristina, though. Yeah, they really waited that out, which is good.
And in reading, it said that they were harmonious in all of their decisions, and I hope that was the case. I guess the judge appointed the person only what
the conservator.
What? I never said. See,
go ahead.
Anyway, I guess the judge appointed her to take care of financial decisions, having nothing to do with her medical decisions, because they said that the family were harmonious in making all decisions. So
Right.
I'm glad that happened.
But Bobby was named as the.
You're saying it right, but that's not what you said. But anyway.
Bobby
Keon, you
was
want the
named
last
as
star?
the
Because we're just
whatever.
about out of time.
I would say to the people listening, make sure you have your powers of attorney, wills, and all of that things of that nature in order, because you just never know. And you always want your directives to be carried out. As we just discussed here, there are many different things that can interplay into that, where sometimes what you want or what you thought would happen doesn't. So just cover your bases, cross your T's, dot your I's. What's that? Zillow? Robert Shapiro, he's always on the TV, to get your free will estimate or whatever. Fill it out, people. Protect your assets, even after you're gone. That's my thought.
Amen. Well, I'm Dion from the Red Room. We got that dude here,
That dude.
the lovely Miss Keon.
Good night, people.
We thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
R.I.P.